I appreciate you doing this. Thanks. So this
Yeah.
podcast is about you and your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
Here I am.
Here you are. Are you still? I did see that you were born and raised in San Francisco. Were you born in Russia and you moved to San Francisco or the Bay Area? Like, tell me about that.
Yeah, so I was born in Moscow. So I basically spent like my childhood, like till about 7, I think I was. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like in Moscow. And then I moved, my parents relocated to the Bay Area. And so I spent like all my formative years basically in the Bay. But I would go back like to Russia to visit family and stuff. So it was kind of like I was between the places, but I would go to school in the Bay, obviously. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay. What was that like? What was it going from Russia to the Bay Area? What part of the Bay Area, if you don't mind me asking?
San Jose, like
Oh, okay. Yeah,
it's like,
South.
Yeah, South Bay. Are you from the Bay?
I've lived up there for a handful of years. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so South Bay, but like, as I like obviously grew older, I spent a lot of time in like San Francisco and Oakland, kind of really big music scenes out there.
Sure.
But yeah, no, going back was interesting. It was definitely like a culture shock oftentimes, but going between the two. I mean, I knew like what to expect, obviously, but like as I grew, it was like, like every year I feel like I would find like new parts of myself or whatever, just naturally growing up, and like go back kind of with this like renewed like culture shock every single time, because it was like a totally different place. But yeah, no, it was at the same time, like it was weird and like jarring in ways, but at the same time, I think it like gave me a lot of kind of perspective and like insight into just like people, because I think a lot of time if you're kind of like in one place all the time, you kind of only can really absorb what's around you,
Of course, yeah. Was there like a language barrier there? Did you grow up speaking Russian
yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
so
How was that?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird, man. Like when I moved here, I didn't speak like English at all. So I basically would just like show up at the playground like, here I am. Like, I don't know what's going on. It was fun. No, no, but it was weird for sure. I mean, I was in ESL, I think like right away, but like still, you understand that you're not like, you don't understand what's going on.
Sure.
So,
and there probably wasn't a lot of people in ESL that spoke Russian either. I would think.
Lucky there were like 2 girls, because like the Bay Area for whatever reason at that time became kind of like a hub for like techies and stuff. And a lot of those people were from Russia for whatever reason.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I would think of, that it would just be you.
Like I actually feel like in that regard, I actually got kind of lucky. But yeah, it was still weird, like, and I don't think I met them until like later. So I got kind of a little bit like older. I don't remember. My timeline honestly is like pretty screwed up because I was young and I was just like so much was going on. But like, I think maybe it was like a few months in that I was like, oh, there's like 2 other Russian girls here. And like, they also don't speak English. And like, obviously that helped. But like, I just remember like very vividly, like in the very beginning, like being just like looking around and just being like, I have no idea what's happening. Like,
Wow. I know. How old were you when you moved to San Jose?
I was 7. Oh, so
okay.
Cupertino,
Wow.
I just say San Jose, but yeah, I grew up in like Cupertino area, right by Apple.
Yeah, very cool. Wow. So I mean, you were like what is that? Like first grade or something?
Yeah, I was like right before first grade, and I ended up like going straight into first grade because I was it was just like whatever, just like have her do the thing the year.
Sure.
So I ended up being young, like younger than I should have been in first grade. But yeah, I was first grade around that age. It was wild. It was definitely like a formative experience, if you
definitely. Jeez. Well, how did you get into music? Did you learn piano or sing or anything prior to moving to the States?
Yeah, I got really weird. Like, it's really bizarre that like culturally there are certain things that like different cultures kind of like push or like, admire culturally. So for me, like Russians are really big on like sports and like chess and like piano music, right? So for whatever reason, like I think my grandma's sister was like a piano teacher and like a singer and taught music. So I mean, obviously it was like around me, even though the bulk of my family was like engineers and scientists and stuff like that. But she happened to be, a a musician. So I kind of knew about that. And then like essentially what happened was my neighbor, we used to live like in a apartment with my grandparents and my mom and stuff. And our neighbor was like this old lady who like had taught piano for years and years. And she was just like, hey, like, you know, you have this like little girl. I was like 3 or 4. And she's like, well, why don't I just like come on over and like teach her piano? Like, why not? And she would sit with me for like hours teaching me piano. So I actually like started learning piano pretty much before I can even remember like consciously speaking. Like I remember saying, yeah. So music's been in my life for a really long time. And it just happened to be that like this lady, this woman just like started teaching me, and she lived next door. And then I just remember my grandparents got a piano, and I was just like fascinated by the way that it looked. And then like watching people play, I was just like, man, I want to do that. And, you know, it looks way easier than it actually is, obviously.
Sure.
But yeah, so I started taking lessons. And then, you know, when I moved to the States, I had already been like playing, but I like had a 6-month gap of like, no, nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up getting a teacher here, like miraculously again, just because of like the Russian community in the Bay at the time, and kind of restarting piano. And then after a while, like singing, I just kind of like just did it, like like sang along with my lessons and what I was playing with and stuff. And then singing just kind of like evolved, and it kind of became a thing where like classical piano is so regimented and rigid, and like everything is just so like, this is what you do and this is how you do it. So I kind of started feeling like, man, I hate practicing. Like, I don't want to do this all that, you know, it was a lot of discipline.
Right.
In retrospect, I'm like very grateful for it, obviously. But at the time, even now, like, you know, it's like nobody wants to sit there and do the same. It's like working out. You don't want to do it all the time.
Right.
Good for you, you know? So I like basically just kind of started using singing as like an escape, because it felt very free. And like, so I would be doing piano, but I would also be like singing, because it just felt like a release. And then that kind of just like ended up becoming like what I did, you know,
your life. Yeah.
It was just like what I do. And like, definitely remember music over like my first like words or whatever. Like I remember like playing before I remember like what I like spoke first or whatever. So it's been around for a minute.
Sure. Yeah, sure. When did you start kind of, I mean, you were talking about how classical music is very, you know, disciplined, and when did you start kind of breaking away from that and kind of tinkering around and writing your own songs?
Oh, that's a good question. When did I start writing my own songs? You know, I feel like I always kind of like dabbled, like fake dabbled, and like when maybe in like middle school, just like write little poems here and there, like super like, I don't know, like angsty, like I love stuff. But like I had never obviously experienced anything of that nature. But yeah, I feel like middle school I started like tinkering around. Then like I remember in I think it was high school, like freshman year or something, I had this dude, like basically people just found out that I could sing, and this guy that was in my school happened to rap, and like he was like, yo, I have this dude that I know, and like he knows like at the local radio station was KML
Oh
in the
yeah.
Bay.
Yeah, I worked in radio up in San Francisco, so yeah, Live 105, or it was Live 105 at the time.
I played BFD like a couple of times.
Really? That's awesome.
My best friends, Menace and Megan Holiday, I met through Live 105.
Really? Yeah, Megan Holiday. That's so funny because she's a great friend of mine and my family. She was at my wedding and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, that's like my best friend. I was supposed to get dinner with her last night.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Are you in LA now?
I am in LA.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
A small world, man.
Yeah. Tell her I say hello.
I will. So wild. She's one of my best friends, dude. Like sister for life, for sure.
That's so awesome.
But yeah, so I was in high school, and came out like this rapper dude that I knew that kind of like had my back in this like weird way, was just like, hey, like I know this guy who like knows like the, you know, Big Von. I think at the time it was I don't know if he's still there. KML, I think he is. And he was like, yeah, he's just looking for like new people to like submit music and write songs and da. And I literally was like, so like, I need to do this. Like, this is my shot. Like, I need to get on the radio. Like, you know, like it was so like in my mind, it was like my moment, you know? And I remember like, I had never produced it. I've never made a song. I'd never like actually by myself, like I'd written stuff here and there, sure, like words or whatever, like sat at the piano and like tinkered around, but like never substantially like had a record, you know? So I literally that day went home until like 4 a.m. I like figured out how to like, I think it wasn't even GarageBand. Like, I don't even remember what software it was. I think it might've been GarageBand, like the very first like editions on like MacBook, whatever is. And I just tried to figure out how to use a program, made this like super shitty beat, like just like the worst, like, and like, but I like did it. Like I wrote the record and I like made a song and it was obviously like shitty, but like, I mean, it wasn't like that, like as bad as you would think it would be, like
right.
first time or whatever. But I ended up like going and like sending the guy the song, and like, I literally thought like, if I don't do this, like I'm never going to make it in music. And like, I'm never going to like do anything in my life. So I just like stayed up and like my eyes were just like so red, and I was just like, I have to do this. Like I have to make a song. And I did that. And that was like my first like official like song. And then after that, it was like, all right, cool. Like I'm going to try to like, you know, meet people. And like that dude that ended up like that rapper guy or whatever ended up like being at my school, and he would bring me to like rap sessions, and I would like write hooks and stuff like that for him.
Okay.
And yeah, after that it was kind of like college came around, and I like kind of didn't, you know, I was just like not sure. I didn't know like how to go about like meeting people that were in the industry or anything. I was just kind of like, I kept singing in like groups and like stuff like that, but not really like writing records. And then finally after school, I ended up joining this group. Like I met this guy through my parents' friends or whatever. And he was like in San Jose, kind of like, you know, he had known a bunch of rappers, and I kind of like, I don't know, we met through, like I said, my parents' friends, and like we ended up forming a group, and I would just write records with him all the time, and he would kind of like find beats or like make them, and then I would write on them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So then I just kind of, once that happened, it was like, okay, like I have to like actively pursue finding people to work with and, you know, write records with. But that was kind of songwriting journey.
Sure. So once you found that, well, that group in college, would you like perform and stuff? Like was it like a serious, you'd go out and tour?
I mean,
and
we like toured, you know, but like we would do local shows, and we would play at like dive bars, like local dive bars, like and stuff. And people knew, like San Jose started kind of like pulling up and noticing, and you know, it was actually only after I like left the group and started doing my own solo stuff that Menace actually found me, and I put out a music video, and I basically found these dudes like Hippie Sabotage. They're like I think now they're doing like EDM kind of DJ and stuff, but they were making beats. I met them randomly. They were in Sacramento, and like they gave me a couple beats, and I like wrote songs, made an EP like on my own, and then like made a video. And like Menace, I guess, saw the video somehow, like just like whatever Bay Area.
Yeah. You know? He's like, man, that guy has his ear to the street of the internet. He gets into stuff before. I remember like he was talking about Instagram. Like he knew like the first couple of people that started it. And he's like, oh yeah, there's going to be this app and it's called Instagram. And he was like telling me about it. And, you know, obviously now it's like one of the biggest things ever, but it's like, he would always get, like his hands in these little things that always would do, like just blow up. I'm like,
I know. I mean, talk about day one. He brought Megan Holiday to a show. And like, I remember seeing her briefly there, but like, we didn't end up like talking and becoming friends till way later, till we were both in LA. But Menace found me, and then he started kind of like, you know, trying to connect me with people and always kind of being in my corner. He's still, to this day, we talk, and, you know, he's always been a huge supporter.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the group, we did shows, but like through Menace, I ended up, you know, once I kind of like did my solo thing, and then I had like a backing band, and we would play like a bunch of live 105 shows, BFD twice.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, dude, Menace like pulled through for me in a minute.
Yeah. So once you met Menace, and did he like I mean, to get on BFD, or did he like hand your stuff over to like Aaron Axelson there, and were you like on you know, sound check and all that stuff? Or like,
Yeah,
how did that kind of start for you?
exactly. You like hit the nail on the head. Like literally, Menace put Aaron on to me when I released that first video. And then Aaron started playing me on soundcheck, and then people were like voting, and like, you know, things were kind of starting to like, basically people just noticed. And like, I'm really big on visuals. So the video that I made like right off the bat was actually like really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the beat was kind of like really cool. And yeah, like Menace was like the conduit. So he's the one that noticed and kind of like put Aaron onto me. And then after that, it was kind of just like, you know, I would be playing shows. And so Aaron would hit me up sometimes to open for people at Rickshaw, like
Oh
at his
yeah.
pop scene.
Yeah, pop scene. Mm-hmm.
Aaron, like, dude, I remember right before, or no, I think it was like right when I moved to LA, like the first week or two, he hit me up to open for Alina Baraz. It was her very first show at Pop Scene, dude.
Wow.
How wild is that? She like ended up coming up to me at the end and was just like, "Hey, can I take a picture with you?" I was like, "No, can I take a picture with you?" Like,
Sure.
it was really, she was sweet. But it
Yeah,
was
talk about another person that knows you can catch stuff like
oh,
way
dude,
beyond. I mean, he
Aaron's
had
like,
like,
oh,
yeah, I mean, he had like Amy Winehouse play pop
I
scene,
know, dude.
Adele play pop scene.
Mm-hmm. Pop Scene was low key it. Like people don't know. Aaron Axelson knows, dude. He talk about ear to the street. That fool is on it.
Oh yeah, yeah, he's a
Yeah,
legend.
he sound check, dude. Go for sure. Aaron gave me a lot of shows and really was like, you know, in my corner too. Like he really helped me a lot. And yeah, man, I just sound check was my favorite. That was EFD obviously was also like great, but
sure. That's
yeah.
cool though. Wow, that's awesome. Well, okay, so I'm just looking at your Spotify right now. So like with what you're looking for, like songs like that, like when did you start, you know, breaking off as a solo artist, or were you a solo artist at that point?
Yeah, at that point I was already definitely a solo artist. Once I left the Bay, and even like at the end of that kind of run, I was playing with a band, but I was like my own solo artist for sure.
Okay.
And but once I came to LA, like it was like, okay, like it's me, and like I'm going for it. I'm gonna find, you know, whoever it is I need to work with, however it isn't, like, you know, I need to make happen. These records just need to happen, and it needs to be mine. So that's definitely like solo material for sure.
Okay. And like, well, I mean, Voices is a massive song for you on Spotify. Like, how are you able to link up with like Brooks and Cashmere, and like how did that all happen?
Funny story. Again, somehow weirdly Menace is involved. I don't know how this is happening.
Menace was just like in the background.
In the background all the time, just like plotting. Like, Cashmere is actually a producer who's from the Bay, and he used to be in a group called the Cataracts, who produced like a G6, like these huge records. And Cashmere or Niles, he ended up like, Menace told him about me like throughout the years, and like would kind of like put him on to me. And then like super randomly, like I honestly don't even know how we got connected. I think it was because one of my managers artists was working with Terra Jr., and Terra Jr. is like the guy in Terra Jr. used to be in the Cataracts with Cashmere.
Oh, okay.
And so we went into a session because I was a writer, and basically through that, like I ended up, my manager ended up getting a session for me and for Cashmere, just because they were looking for people to collaborate with. And because his other client who was a producer was working with the other guy in the Cataracts, it all kind of like molded together. And then yeah, we wrote a couple songs. Like we obviously bonded on the fact that like we were both from the Bay, and like you know, there's just a kind of like an understanding of like, okay, you know, we get each other, and this is like cool. We vibe as people. And so now the music is just like easy. So yeah, like I started writing with Niles. I never actually even met Brooks. You know, this all happened on like computers and internets and everything.
Was this like was this like already pandemic at this point, or no, not yet?
No, but I think Brooks, because he was in the UK or something.
Oh, okay.
And like the song, when we started it, it was just me and Cashmere, and then like Brooks ended up kind of like getting on and kind of like doing some stuff to it after I had already recorded like a demo version. And to be honest with you, I was shook because that song, you know, was like 2 years old. And I thought, you know, oh, we did a cool little couple of records, like whatever, like, we don't know, probably not gonna happen. I don't know. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, like I get tagged in this video and he's like, Cashmere's like performing it at like, was it Tomorrowland? Something like that. It was
Wow.
like some crazy huge show. And like, I'm like, what's happening? And then like a week later, you know, we get in touch with the team and they were like, yeah, like, you know, he's releasing this as a single, like da da da. And then, you know, and it just kind of worked out because like we're both from the Bay, like I said. And I feel like he kind of, there's like a weird little soft spot of like, all right, like make this happen, you know?
Sure. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so where were you when the pandemic all hit, and how did that affect you?
Man, well, that's a loaded question.
I mean, aside from the fact that you're probably stuck inside for a year and all that, but I mean, like creative.
No, it was actually weird because the pandemic hit and I found out that that record was coming out. So in this like weird way, like it kind of just like stuff catapulted for me, like right in the beginning.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
And we ended up getting a deal kind of like literally right around that time. It was bizarre. It was like all of it, like the pandemic hit and then I found out the song's coming out and I was just like, what is happening? Obviously, like I wish like we could have like toured and done the record, but that didn't happen. But regardless, like it was a very nice, like as devastating as this pandemic has been for like so many people in a weird way. I'm like, so not even a weird way. I'm just grateful that happened at the beginning. Cause you know, everybody was freaking out like in the beginning, as I'm sure you're aware. And like, I was too. So that gave me this like weird sense of like, like maybe it's not all that bad right now. Like, at least in my personal world, you know, I was just like, just be grateful that this is even happening. And yeah, it was beginning of pandemic and this record came out and then everything started kind of like snowballing, even though I was like home, like everybody was working from home, everybody was doing everything from home. And somehow like we launched my entire project like after that record.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So everything that has came out prior to Voices is all post pandemic.
Prior to, you mean post?
Yeah, post. Sorry, post. Yeah.
Yeah, post. That is all pandemic. Every single song that I've dropped, like, is all
wow. Records. And how was that working from home or from your, you know? Yeah,
it was so weird. Like, I mean, nobody, you know, there's no rule book. There's no rule book as it is, and then there's no pandemic rule book even more. So it's just everybody was just like, man, fuck it. Like, let's just see what happens. Like, we have these records that we've been sitting on, that we've been planning on releasing, and now it's like, we're not gonna just not do it for a year. Like, what do we do? Like, we're not gonna, you know, we just spent all this time building this whole entire world around all these records, and so we just were like, man, we got to figure it out. We got to just like, you know, find a deal, like put these songs out. And sure enough, like I said, it all kind of happened at once.
Wow. And with like, tell me about the writing process with that. Was it all like this over Zoom and recording, and how did that all happen?
Those records, the records that came out during pandemic had already been made, you know.
Oh, so okay.
We were sitting on them for like a year, and we were just like mixing and mastering and stuff like that, and plotting kind of all the visuals and everything so that we can have like a good rollout. But I definitely did do sessions over Zoom quite frequently. And actually, Fuckboy Anthem was completely out of nowhere. Like, we added that on into the project. I wrote that in probably August over Zoom with a friend of mine, a great producer and co-writer in the UK. And we were like, which is
really
sick. Yeah. Like, I feel like the only reason that happened is because of the pandemic. Like, we had this awesome Zoom session and like catch up session and like made this song because it was a pandemic. Because otherwise, like, he was in the UK, so we weren't going to be doing sessions, you know, like had it been like normal. Right. So in a weird way, like I said, like these sessions all that happened prior, that like the songs already existed and we like put them out, but then I also like did add on like Fuckboy Anthem, and that was from a Zoom session over the pandemic. And so far in the pandemic, I've pretty much been doing like only exclusively Zoom sessions, which is a whole like experience in itself. But like it's, you know, it's just another way. And like, I feel like super blessed that that's even like a possibility for us to like have that. Cause I mean, I can't imagine like just like having to sit in a pandemic and like, just like you know?
Yeah, imagine if we didn't have this technology. It's like people would be going crazy.
Yeah. We just go back to like Beethoven days, like write letters to each other.
Right, totally.
Get a quill like from somewhere.
I was talking to somebody about this earlier too, and it's like, how did Skype screw this up? I mean, that was like the only thing that had this, and then it's like Zoom is like, you know, like making a phone call nowadays.
Easy. Yeah, I remember too. It's so funny. One of my homegirls in San Jose, her sister, like she would tell me, she's like, oh yeah, my sister works for this like company called Zoom. Like a couple of years ago, I was like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I had no idea. Sure. Now it's like a household name.
Right. Yeah. My wife was using it forever because her work is all from home. She's always worked from home, and they would always do virtual meetings like this through Zoom. So that was the only reason I knew what it was. And then now everybody knows what it is. It's crazy.
It's like, I mean, school literally is on Zoom.
Right.
Wild, dude.
Yeah, I'm sure if you called Menace, he would have some sort of his fingers would be in there somewhere. Yeah. He's like, he's like, I was using that in 07. You're like, what?
Remember I told you about it? When they were logs of somebody's house, like, remember?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Menace, no, we know about everything.
That's awesome. So, okay, so do you have any other songs that you've written and are ready to go since, you know, writing Fuckboy Anthem?
Yeah, we have a couple left to put out. Actually, I think we're gonna probably release one more, and then I'm gonna drop an EP, like a full.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, and I mean, there's definitely like the catalog is huge, but in terms of this project, yeah, we have like a single, and then after that, we're gonna be releasing an EP in the summer. So I'm super stoked, and then, you know,
hopefully
you already know.
People seem to be getting vaccinated, and then hopefully,
like cool, for sure. I can't wait to start doing shows again.
Well, how do you feel? I mean, we don't know obviously what's going to happen, but like, is it weird kind of thinking like, okay, I put all this work in, I've got this EP, and then is it just going to sit online? Like, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't given it much thought. I'm just kind of trying to like take it like day by day, and like from like people that I know that do shows and stuff, it's starting to become like kind of in the mix a little bit. At least the conversations are happening now. Like I know Outside Lands already announced that the lineup.
Yeah, they're doing it in like Halloween weekend or something.
Yeah, Halloween weekend. That's right. Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah, the lineup is dope too. I mean, they lost some artists, but they've also gained.
Yeah, no, I'm very happy with the ones this year. So I'm hoping to make it out there for that show. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really like, I don't know what's gonna happen, and if you know, if the fate is that this project sits online, then like so be it. But like at the end of the day, I feel like I'm gonna want to sing like one or two. If it's like too late at that point, it's like been like 2 years, and I'll probably just like pick one or two by that time. But we'll see, man. Like, I mean, I'm not against singing these songs, even if it is like 5 years down the line, you know, because I was writing very much like according to my life and like how my life was going. So that's never gonna go away. These are just like mementos, you know.
Sure. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, dude.
Real quick on the whole online thing, like I saw on your Instagram that you do like some of the live or like, you know, recording things that you post online. Like, how do you feel about that? Like, do you go live on there and play it all? Like, is it weird?
I haven't yet, but I'm actually literally buying an electric piano because my upright is like broken low-key, so I have to get another piano. But no, I would love to do that, like lives with the instrumentation and everything. Yeah, I mean, like I said, at this point, in any capacity that I can like do something live like that would be sick. And like, I'm definitely planning on doing that.
Something for like the EP release or something like that.
Like some acoustic stuff. We also have like some another acoustic video that's gonna drop soon for Fuckboy, and I think I'm gonna do more and more like live renditions of songs or whatever, like acoustic things, you know, maybe even like an acoustic version of this EP or whatever.
Oh, cool.
It's all definitely in the plan. But
I love it.
Literally just like must get to Guitar Center, you know,
Right.
and never get asked what I need.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I can't wait. And thank you again so much for doing this. I have one more question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Oh, this question, the advice. Well, I can only really speak from my experience, obviously, but I have to say, like, for women, at least, I feel like the best piece of advice is to never be quiet. Like, always make your voice heard and known. And like, especially if you're in a session, not to be intimidated by the fact that there's a lot of men in the room, because that is really intimidating. You know, I've been in so many sessions where like I was younger and like nobody's really, there's no like guidance. It's just like, we'll figure it out. Like, you know, so I think my advice is just like, never be afraid to speak up and like make your voice heard, even if that means like saying it a few times or like being a little bit more assertive. Eventually, like it's always worth it, and you always kind of figure out like who to work with that's going to respect that. And you know, I think that's really important, especially for women coming up in the game.